Hello, everyone. Today we're going to pick back up in 1 Samuel chapter 2. And when we left off together last time, where we were, we had read Hannah's prayer and compared that to Luke, to a segment of Luke where Mary had said a prayer as well, and looked at some similarities there. Both very sweet prayers, and ultimately really depending on the Lord completely, right? In terms of it being the Lord our God who is knowledge of knowledge, and this is referencing back in verse 3 of chapter 2, and by Him actions are weighed. So God's in control of everything, and with Hannah too, just this sweetness of her having been barren and praying to God and in prayer to God, just to open up her womb, and then also if she were given a male child, that he would be solely dedicated to the Lord, and that is exactly what we're going to see here now in chapter 2 is she bore Samuel, and again Samuel's name is means heard by God, so Hannah was indeed heard by God, and Hannah's name means grace, so there's this grace that's being given. Um, as well, and always pointing to grace in this time of law, pointing to ultimately Christ. And so picking up verse 12, the wicked sons of Eli, it says, "Now the sons of Eli were corrupt, they did not know the Lord. And the priest's custom with the people was that when any man offered a sacrifice, the priest's servants would come with a three-pronged flesh hook in his hand while the meat was boiling. Then he would thrust it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot, and the priest would take for himself all that the flesh hook brought up. So they did in Shiloh to all the Israelites who came there. Also, before they burned the fat, the priest's servant would come and say to the man who sacrificed, 'Give meat for roasting to the priest, for he will not take boiled meat from you, but raw.' And if the man said to him, 'They should really burn the fat first, then you may take as much as your heart desires,' he would then answer him, 'No, but you must give it now, and if not, I will take it by force.' Therefore the sin of the young men was very great before the Lord, for men abhorred the offering of the Lord." This is very different than what's going on here is very different than what's been commanded by God, as we've seen in earlier studies. In terms of the priest's duties and what they were to do and how they were to serve the people as the people come for to give their offering, and just this image here of people coming, people making a pilgrimage to Shiloh, for their offerings and to make supplication to the Lord. And here are these men here, completely going about it in the wrong way. We see first of all that they're robbing the people. We see they want the meat before the fat. This is despising the law. This is completely backwards. And then also wanting the meat before it's boiled, because first it's supposed to be boiled, but they're even taking that before it's boiled. So completely despising the law, completely despising and even the people. I just think, what would it be like, for me to walk in church this Sunday, just with my heart open and wanting, to be with God, and just to go there and be robbed. It's I wouldn't want to be on the side of the priests. Let's put it that way. I wouldn't want to be these guys, and just in what they're doing. But in this, it says in verse 18, "But Samuel ministered before the Lord, even as a child, wearing a linen ephod. Moreover, his mother used to make him a little robe and bring it to him year by year when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. And Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife and say, 'The Lord give you descendants from this woman, for the loan that was given to the Lord.' Then they would go to their own home. And the Lord visited Hannah, so that she conceived and bore 3 sons and 2 daughters. Meanwhile, the child Samuel grew before the Lord." And getting into verse 22, because of what's happening in the house of Eli, because of what we just read about his sons, we're going to see now this prophecy against Eli's household. Because God doesn't take these things lightly. And even to the point, when one finds himself in this place of leadership, it's teaching or leadership or oversight. It's not something to be taken lightly, at all. We see in the New Testament that it says, to whom much is given, much is required, and also that those who teach and that those who are in that leadership position, they're going to be held, to a higher standard. So um, this is what we're going to see with this prophecy. I mean, the Eli and his sons are in this role, and they're completely performing it opposite of what there is. And at a minimum, we could see Eli, chastise his sons, or and we're going to see coming up here too in Leviticus 10, we're going to make a reference back to what happened to Aaron's own sons. When they didn't follow the law, they were literally struck dead. But here it's taking place, and is a good reminder of what we had read in Judges, where the people had no king. They had the people did what was right in their own eyes, and even the priests, even the folks in this role, they're doing the same thing. They're just doing what's right in their own eyes. And it says, now Eli was very old, and he heard everything his sons did to all Israel, and how they lay with the women who assembled at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. So they're even laying with the women. So he said to them, why do you do such things? This is Eli asking his sons. For I hear of your evil dealings from all the people. No, my sons, for it is not a good report that I hear. You make the Lord's people transgress. If one man sins against another, God will judge him. But if a man sins against the Lord, who will intercede for him? Nevertheless, they did not heed the voice of their father, because the Lord desired to kill them. And the child Samuel grew in stature and in favor, both with the Lord and men. Just quite a contrast here. We're reading what we're reading with Eli chastising his sons, but again, frankly, it should have been much more than that. He's asking them why they do such things. He is pointing to the fact that that God is the judge, which is true. And then right at the end of that, it says, and the child Samuel grew in stature, in favor with the Lord and men. So again, meanwhile, just pointing out this contrast while all this is going on, not following the commands, not truly being a good representative of God, a true representative of God. All the while, here's Samuel growing in the things of the Lord, in favor with both the Lord and men. Then a man of God came to Eli and said to him, thus says the Lord, did I not clearly reveal myself to the house of your father when they were in Egypt, in Pharaoh's house? Did I not choose him out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to offer upon my altar to burn incense and to wear an ephod before me? And did I not give to the house of your father all the offerings of the children of Israel made by fire? Why do you kick at my sacrifice and my offering, which I have commanded in my dwelling place? And honor your sons more than me, to make yourselves fat with the best of all the offerings of Israel my people. Therefore the Lord God of Israel says, I said indeed that your house and the house of your father would walk before me forever. But now, the Lord says, far be it from me, for those who honor me I will honor, and those who despise me shall be lightly esteemed. Behold, the days are coming that I will cut off your arm and the arm of your father's house, so that there will not be an old man in your house. And you will see an enemy in my dwelling place, despite all the good which God does for Israel. And there shall not be an old man in your house forever, but any of your men whom I do not cut off from my altar shall consume your eyes and grieve your heart. And all the descendants of your house shall die in the flower of their age. Now this shall be a sign to you that will come upon your two sons, on Hophni and Phinehas. In one day they shall die, both of them. And we're going to see this come to pass in chapter 4. Then I will raise up for myself a faithful priest who shall do according to what is in my heart and in my mind. I will build him a sure house, and he shall walk before my anointed forever. And it shall come to pass that everyone who is left in your house will come and bow down to him for a piece of silver and a morsel of bread, and say, Please put me in one of the priestly positions, that I may eat a piece of bread. So looking back at this together, starting back in verse 27, where this prophet's coming to speak with Eli, and he's laying out really the history here of what they should be doing. He's laying out exactly what it was like for coming out of Egypt, and what it was supposed to be like. And then also even some of the consequences, laying out that as well. And then God speaking to them, saying, "Far be it from me, for those who honor me I will honor, and those who despise me shall be lightly esteemed." And then the curse, looking at the curse that Eli is to experience. And then in chapter 3, Samuel's first prophecy. Chapter 3 is, it's, I don't know, for me it was really innocent and sweet. What we see in chapter 3 is we see this interaction where, um, uh, let me just read a few here. It says, chapter 3, verse 1, "Now the boy Samuel ministered to the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was rare in those days. There was no widespread revelation. And it came to pass at that time, while Eli was lying down in his place, and when his eyes had begun to grow so dim that he could not see." So here's Eli growing old and dim sighted. "And before the lamp of God went out in the tabernacle of the Lord, where the ark of God was, and while Samuel was lying down, that the Lord called Samuel, and Samuel answered, 'Here I am.' So he ran to Eli and said, 'Here I am, for you called me.'" So verse 1, "And the word of the Lord was rare in those days. There was no widespread revelation." We see this play out. Um, the Samuel is hearing God speak to him, and he's running to Eli, thinking it's Eli talking to him. And this happens 3 times, and after the third time, in verse 8, it says, "Then Eli perceived that the Lord had called the boy. Therefore Eli said to Samuel," so he's giving Samuel some instruction here, "Go, lie down, and it shall be, if he calls you, that you must say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant hears.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place. And sure enough, the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel answered, "Speak, for your servant hears." That's my prayer for you. That's my prayer for me, is for God to speak, and for us to hear, to hear his voice, that still small voice that beckons and that guides, for us to hear. "And the Lord said to Samuel, Behold, I will do something in Israel at which both ears of every one who hears it will tingle. In that day I will perform against Eli all that I have spoken concerning his house, from beginning to end. For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knows, because his sons made themselves vile, and he did not restrain them." He did not restrain them. And God speaking directly to Samuel here. So that when this prophet came and spoke to Eli, the judgment on the house of Eli was as harsh as Eli's judgment was light. When he goes to his sons, he's just, "Hey guys, why are you doing this? I have gotten this report from the people." But God's not playing around here. "And therefore I have sworn to the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be atoned for by sacrifice or offering forever." So Samuel lay down until morning and opened the doors of the house of the Lord. And Samuel was afraid to tell Eli the vision. Then Eli called Samuel and said, "Samuel, my son." He answered, "Here I am." And he said, "What is the word that the Lord spoke to you? Please do not hide it from me. God do so to you, and more also, if you hide anything from me, all the things that he said to you." And it says Samuel did tell him everything. And after he said that, and he said, Eli says, "It is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him." So he did take, Eli did take what Samuel had to say, gracefully, like, "Hey, yes, it's indeed from God, and let him do what seems good to him." So Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and let none of his words fall to the ground. And all Israel from Dan to Beersheba knew that Samuel had been established as a prophet of the Lord. Then the Lord appeared again in Shiloh, for the Lord revealed himself to Samuel in Shiloh by the word of the Lord, and the word of Samuel came to all Israel. So we're going to leave off there with Samuel. God bless you guys. And in thinking about this, just again, there's some very key verses, that we saw together here today. And and one of them was, "And the word of the Lord was rare in those days. There was no widespread revelation." Pray for revelation for yourself, that God speaks to you. And in speaking, that we might answer exactly how Samuel answered when he says, "Speak, for your servant hears." God bless you guys, and have a great day.